Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Park Sportsbook and Casino Act. Elliot Shore Parks, James Seltzer with you after a absolute classic Eagles-Cowboys game on Christmas Eve. A super entertaining, super fun game, but an incredibly frustrating one to lose, especially because the mistakes were clear, the turnovers. It was a game they had, Elliot. It was a game they should have won, and even more frustrating. If Jalen Hurts plays, they win that game easily. And Gardner wasn't even bad. Like, Gardner's clearly one of the 32 best quarterbacks on the planet. He should start somewhere. But, man, the offense is just so much better with Hurts. Frustrating on many levels. Merry Christmas, Owen.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
I'm drinking eggnog because I thought you'd appreciate it. Literally did
I do
that
appreciate
just for
that.
you, to show
I had a little
I'm in your Christmas spirit zone for you, buddy.
I had a little too much eggnog on Friday night. And let me tell you, I guess it was Thursday night. And let me tell you, this 7.5-hour drive down to Greensboro was not a fun time.
Oh, that's never fun after a too much eggnog night.
I'm sure that's what everyone's worried about right now. So let me just start by saying this. The Eagles were up 10-0. They were up 27-17. They were up 7 with a 3rd and 30. They were up after the first quarter, the second, third, the third quarter, and they had a chance to win the game late. So all that leads to what is an incredibly disappointing loss. This should be over. We should be starting this talking about how awesome it is that Sirianni clinched the number 1 seed, how far this organization has come since 2020. The fact that they did what you thought they would do 2 weeks left in the season, tonight should have been the night. They played well enough. Definitely, well, I don't even say on either side of the ball because we'll get into it, but they played well enough to win the game despite their many mistakes. So all that is still the reality of that it's a crushing loss. The other is, before the game, 538 had them with a 97% chance to get the 1 seed. After the game, it's at 95. So they are going to be the 1 seed. I don't feel I'm jinxing them by saying that. I don't feel I'm being overly optimistic. That was just an emotionally upsetting loss more than it was a season kind of defining one. But that being said, we are an emotional podcast. We are 2 emotional men. And let's be honest, it feels like an incredibly blown chance that's a damper on the season. Like, the defense was bad. Lane Johnson left with an injury. Avante left with an injury. Jordan Davis left with an injury. Jalen didn't play because he's injured. I mean, what really sucks about this is they had so many chances just to end it tonight. And now, next week against the Saints, they're going to have to play their starters. They're going to have to play Gardner. They're going to have to put A.J. Brown out there. And the Saints are playing for something. I think they're going to win the game, but the Saints are playing for something. They have a chance at the playoffs. They won today. So it just feels like, and I know I said that I wouldn't have even played the guys against the Cowboys, but they did. And they tried their hardest to win that game, and they lost. And that's the incredibly upsetting thing about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if I get it, and I'm with you. And the injury is part of that. I am super concerned about. Luckily, at first it looked like the Lane injury was really bad. Then he kind of was able to get off.
Yeah, went to the locker room though.
Yeah, look, and all those guys were out. Maddox out for the game. Davis out for the game. When it happened, that's never ideal. But look, I'm with you in the macro sense of they're going to get the 1 seed, and it is annoying that they weren't able to clinch it tonight, but they're way better than the Saints, and they're way better than the Giants if it came down to that, especially a Giants team that, even though they lost today, actually gained ground on clinching a playoff spot because the Seahawks lost, the Lions lost, Washington lost. So, the Giants are going to have nothing to play. They will have clinched. They will clinch next week one way or another. I feel super confident about that. So that last game, the Giants don't have anything to play for either. So, if it really came down to that, which, again, I don't think it will, I'm not nervous about them not getting the 1 seed. And I do think that I did feel that watching the game, and that, as much as I'm really bummed they didn't win. I don't want to take away from that. But, I did watch the game with a little bit more of a carefree attitude than I normally would, because I know that, deep down, they didn't really have to win this game. Like we talked about coming into it, if I have to choose which of the next 2 they could win, you could only win 1. I'd rather win next week. I'd rather beat the Saints. It's more important for the franchise on an overall sense. And look, I don't think Dallas comes out of this being like, oh, we're the big boys. We won this game. They barely beat Gardner Minshew, and it took 4 turnovers for it to happen. They were not good today. Their defense did not look good against Gardner Minshew. Again, I say it before, I'll say it again, I'll say it throughout. I think if Hurts plays, the Eagles win this game easily. Mm-hmm. they win. They don't turn the ball over as much. They're not as sloppy. And Hurts just doesn't miss a lot of the throws that Gardner did. Like, the Eagles should have won this game. Forgetting the Hurts part of it, as it happened today, like, they should have won that game. They made more mistakes. They missed more throws. They had more opportunities, and they just blew it. Like, they blew the game. And that's why it's frustrating, because to your point, it was an opportunity to just, like, shut it down. But at the same point, you can make the argument, look, they're not going to rest all the guys for a month. So these guys are going to play at least this week or the next, one way or the other. They're going to get opportunity. Like, they're going to have another bye. So you can spin it around that way and say, it's not that big a deal from that perspective, and, hope that guys are hurt or okay. But, it's definitely a missed opportunity, because at least you could choose how you go about it a little bit more.
So it's interesting. I always love when, like, our roles reverse on the podcast, because you watch this game, as you said, with a little more of a carefree attitude. That was not my emotional ride through this game. I was crushed is not the right word, but when they actually lost at the end, I just felt like, man, this is such a blown opportunity. I know we've said this so many times, and I do think they're going to get the 1 seed. And I'm sure the first 10 minutes, this pod will sound repetitive, but it is what it is. Like, they had such an amazing chance. Again, up 10-0, up 27-17. The 3rd and 30 play is going to go down as an all-time.
One of the worst. It's right up there with 4th and 15 in overtime in Tennessee.
I was going to say the sticks play. What's funny is if they play sticks defense on that, they probably don't give it up, right?
Dude, just a disastrous play there, especially for a defense that, is so predicated on not giving up big plays, to give up a 3rd and 30 there to a guy who wasn't even on a team for the first 13 games of the season.
We'll get into the defense more, I'm sure. It's not a good day for the Jonathan Gannon fans.
Not a good day.
Not the Christmas Eve present. Not Christmas Eve present I wanted from my boy JG.
Yeah.
But I'll also say, like, I agree they win this game with Jalen Hurts. I thought early in the game, the first drive, you probably get a touchdown. There was another play, the missed pass to Quez Watkins. Now, they scored later in the drive, so it didn't matter that much. But there were a lot of plays. I thought today, Gardner, first of all, what's ironic is he wasn't terrible, but he looked scared throughout the game in the pocket, constantly throwing
skittish.
Off he missed his accuracy was not good. Goddard made a lot of really good catches. Devontae was unbelievable.
Was unbelievable.
Today really showed how accurate Jalen has been throughout this season.
It's a great point, Elliot.
Gardner was not accurate, right? So, like, I think overall for Jalen's MVP case, it's probably helped his chances overall. But I remember a few weeks ago sitting in Parks, and we did a show of, are you afraid of the Cowboys, right? So I think if Dallas comes to Philadelphia for the Eagles' first playoff game, the Eagles will win that game. I will pick them to win that game. But also, let's be honest, Dak Prescott has given this defense a ton of trouble. A ton of trouble.
It's true, but it's a different game flow. Like, they can pin their ears back if they're ahead. If they don't have if it's not as close a game and you have a bigger lead with Jalen, like, you play them differently.
Yeah.
So I get your point, but, like, honestly, I go the other way and say Dallas's defense looked like crap. That was the whole thing. Is like, the reason to be scared of Dallas was their defense, not their offense. And, like, they didn't look scary at all tonight. They looked horrible.
I agree with that. Let me just say my Dak thing. Like, now there's been a lot of different variations of playing Dak. Backups, Schwartz is the coordinator, Wentz is the quarterback. So, like, there are tons of different variations of it. But the bottom line is 40 points today, 51 points last year, 40 in another game. 2018, they had a big game against them. It just feels like we can parse it and look at it and go, like, well, like, this was that case. And this, I just know whenever I see them play Dak in games they have to win, it feels like they always lose. So my concern from today was, like, the offense looked great, and I agree with that. And I think that they win the game if Jalen plays, because I don't think they turned over 4 times. Now, I will say the 2 Minshew interceptions were Quez Watkins' fault, in my opinion. So you could argue, if Hurts makes those same throws, they're not good throws. It's just Quez's fault. I thought they involved Quez too much. But where I always come down on is, I think if the Eagles play the Cowboys in the playoffs, they are probably going to give up somewhere around 30 points. Like, I can defend Gannon all I want, blah, blah, blah. Bottom line is, they always seem to struggle against Dak. Gannon does have a checkered history against great quarterbacks. So we can debate Gannon until the sun comes up. But the bottom line is, they're probably going to give up close to 30 points. My concern is coming off of, what will be 3 weeks off potentially, or at least a week off, and, potentially even more for Hurts, right? I think Dallas is capable of beating the Eagles in Philadelphia. I don't feel the way that they win that game by 10 plus points easy. I think they win tonight for sure because the game plays itself out differently.
Feel very differently
better than Gardner. But Dak really kind of has the Eagles' numbers.
Well,
so
let me counter that from a couple angles. One, something that we talked about so much all season leading up to this, and like just because Hurts got hurt, sorry the lack of creative language there,
Yeah.
but just because Hurts got hurt, we stopped talking about the fact that this is a roster that has played 3 straight road games, and the numbers on that in the history of football, as we know, or since they've been tracked or whatever, are bad. And the defense looked like crap today, but I don't expect the defense to look that bad in a situation where they're rested and at home and have the crowd on their side and are ready to go. So I do think it's a completely different situation. And from the Hurts thing, it's not as simple as, just the look at the picks to Quez. And I agree, those were on Quez. Quez was horrible. That second one where he just let the guy rip it out of his hands. I don't know. I don't know. Especially on a day where I do think Steichen and Sirianni really had a great game from a play calling perspective. The Quez stuff was strange. But I think the part about the Hurts not being there that we don't, it's not just the throws, it's not just the specific misses or whatever. It's also the fact that Hurts is their leader. Hurts is the guy. Hurts is the MVP. When he's out there, the team is different. They play differently. Everything works differently. They're tighter. The ship runs better. So I don't think it's just as simple as saying, Gardner, look at those throws or whatever. I just think it's a completely different team when Jalen Hurts is out there. You know what I'm saying?
And I agree with you on that. I think they would beat the Cowboys in Philadelphia, and I think they win tonight. The only thing I'm saying is the defense struggling the way it did. Now, I'll say this. The defense scored a touchdown. The last 6
And what do you think of the 3 straight road things? Like, we forget talking about that, but they're going to have tired legs in this spot.
Yeah. So I know the numbers back you up, and I know you're right about that. I just have to be honest and say it doesn't do it for me the way it does.
Well, it does for me.
Right. I'm just and I think you were probably right. I'm not as factored in or worked up about that as you are. But I'll say this about the defense too. Like, scored 7 points, right? A lot of short fields because offense kept turning it over. They probably gave up, I would say, 3 legit touchdown drives that were, 55, 60 plus yards. So maybe I'm overreacting a little bit. I just know when I see the Cowboys score 40 points after what feels like they always do well against the Eagles, this was kind of my worst nightmare. Now, to your point, the offense did move the ball pretty easily. Like, even with the 4 turnovers, they still put up, well, I guess it would be 27 points because the defense scored 7 of them, but they still put up 27 points. I thought they had chances to score more points. So overall, I thought Gardner and the offense were okay. I think, you said a thing about Gardner being a best 32 quarterback in the league, and you're right. He probably is. But I did think today also showed why Gardner will always probably be right where he is in his career, because he can make some really nice throws, and he had some really nice throws today. But I think over a prolonged stretch, you saw today, Gardner just isn't as good in the pocket as Hurts. His presence is not as good. It felt like he was constantly running around. The offense didn't feel like it flowed as well. I actually didn't think the run offense was good at all today. Now, I thought they'd be able just to line up and run the ball, but clearly missing Jalen impacted them in the run game.
Miles was good though. I thought other than the fumbles were a disaster, but Miles was good from a I thought they moved the ball well in the running game at times. Look, Gardner doesn't do anything special. At no point do you watch Gardner and say, wow, look at that.
Yeah,
that was
2 or 3 throws where I was like, that was a nice throw, but it was when you watch Jalen, and they had some long passes today, but I thought they weren't able to throw it deep as much as they always do, which is certainly because Jalen throws a better deep ball than Gardner does. And although we can blame Quez, he still did have 2 interceptions, right? I mean, I know Hurts had 2 last week, but Hurts has been really good with the ball. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just leave this game and think, man, it should all be over, and it's not. And I think that's most for me. Just knowing
it.
And, there's also part of me that's excited we'll get a competitive Saints game. And, if you're the Eagles, maybe it's more fun to clinch at home and all those things. But, as I sit here wondering how Lane Johnson's feeling, what the deal with Avante is, what we talked about leading up to the week. You want to put these players on the field for as few snaps as you can leading up to the playoffs. That's just the reality, right? And even in the playoffs, if you're up 20 points or, 35 points, whatever, take them off. There's every snap they play is a risk. And this roster is so talented and has such a real chance to go to the Super Bowl that they have to play a whole nother week and game plan for a whole nother week and put their bodies on the line against a physical Saints team that's playing for something. it just sucks. And, again, I would have probably tanked versus Dallas, and maybe I would have felt different after this. And I would have sat here and said, well, they didn't play their starters tonight, so it's okay that they lost and they're going to get the 1 seed. But watching them try to beat the Cowboys, not do it, suffer injuries, and have to play another week, it just feels like it really couldn't have gone much worse in Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, I get, like, I get it. I just look again, like you said, they still have a 95% chance to get the
They're
1
going to be
seed.
the 1 seed. I
Again,
know
other than the injuries, which I can't argue with at all. Obviously, injuries are your biggest concern with all this stuff right now. They should have won the game, and they had their backup quarterback in, and we saw the gigantic delta between their starting quarterback, MVP should be, or top
help
two
his
or
MVP
three,
chances tonight.
top 2 or 3 quarterback, no matter how you look at it, from any level in the league this year, to Gardner. Like, what a massive difference. And they lost because they turned the ball over 4 times and played sloppy football and, blew opportunities. I get your point that it is frustrating that they could have clinched and controlled their own destiny, or controlled their own decision making from here. But, look, they're not going to sit everyone for a month. Like, people were going to play in these next
But I
games
would have. I
for a month. That's crazy.
I would have, and I think they would.
I think, like, we see the rust so much. Like the Colts did that. They were 14-0. They sat everyone. Everyone killed them. They lost both games. Then they had a week off and they lost in the playoffs. Like, rust is a real factor. I wouldn't want everyone to sit the entire time before it anyway. Again, I would have been fine if they sat everyone for this Dallas game and just moved on to next week. So I get how it's frustrating, and the injuries again are a separate issue. But outside of that, I just can't see that. Like, I'm completely against this idea of this being some sort of, again, you lose to Dallas, that sucks. It's a game you should have won. That sucks. It's annoying that they won, and it could be all over. That sucks. But from a season macro perspective of where this team is at, I'm like, whatever.
So what I would say, and you keep saying they should have won the game, right? And I don't even know.
They should have. They lost by 6, and they turned the ball over 4 times and had so many blown opportunities.
But that's what I'm saying. I think they caught, like, I get your point about should.
And again, if Hurts is there, I think they do win easily.
Right, but I don't know, man. At the same time, they did turn over 4 times. They did give up the 3rd and 30. So you're right that they should have won it. I think they're a better team than Dallas. It's just for them to be so sloppy in this situation was surprising too, to go into such a big spot.
3rd straight road game. Like, I don't know. I get it. I just think I can't get too worked up over that. This team's been awesome all year, and 3rd straight, a game that we all thought they were going to lose starting the season to begin with. They didn't have their best players, the MVP of the league. They lost by 6 because of a bunch of stupid mistakes. Like, yeah, I'm bummed they lost, but I am nowhere near where you're at as this sort of being any indictment whatsoever of this team or this matchup.
And I'm not saying it's a big indictment. I'm just saying they gave up 40 points. They lost to the Cowboys. I just know that when I was watching it in the 4th quarter, I kept thinking to myself, this is their chance to clinch the 1 seed. And they still will get the 1 seed. But it just felt like such a golden chance that was absolutely blown. Let's talk about the 3rd and 30 play, though.
Can we crush your boy Gannon? Like, what a disaster.
All right, good.
I will never forget how, and deservedly so, and look, Corey Graham deserved it too, but how much Jim Schwartz, it was really Corey Graham's fault more than Jim Schwartz's, but how much Jim Schwartz got destroyed for that 4th and 15 in overtime. And that was overtime, and that was 4th down, but 3rd and 30 to T.Y. Hilton?
Yeah.
Defend your boy, Elliott. Defend. And look, players got to make plays and all that, but like 3rd and 30.
Yeah, so I can't defend the 3rd and 30 play. The 3rd and 30 play was insane. But what was so crazy is, they get the touchdown, right? On I think it might have been 4th down or whatever on the play before, but they go up 37 to 34-27 or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Reddick sack, almost got the ball, by the way. Linval Joseph's like a millisecond away from getting that ball. So they almost do that. They get to Josh Sweat sack, 3rd and 30. It really felt to me, again, like I talked about it, up after the 1st quarter, 2nd quarter, 3rd quarter. When it was 3rd and 30, I thought they had won that game. It felt like to me they had put it away. And I think you can look at that play and say a couple different things. One, this defense is built on not giving up big plays. So I think we can both sit here and say the call was probably one that should have prevented it. But he's the coordinator, and you can't give up that play under no situation. I do think I didn't think Darius Slay had a great game. I'm not in Dallas, so I can't ask
Agree.
what happened,
Agree.
but the fact Darius Slay lets T.Y. Hilton run by him is weird to me. And
And had
then
that huge penalty earlier
had
too.
the
Like,
huge penalty on fourth
I
down.
mean, it was clearly, but yeah, that led to a touchdown. If they stop on fourth down there, it's a different game
Yeah.
too, you know?
Josiah Scott was in coverage on T.Y. Hilton. It looked like maybe he was late to get over or something. So I think that the play was probably poor execution by the players. Obviously, I don't think the coverage was meant to give up a 3rd and 30. But the bottom line is you can't give up a 3rd and 30 at the end of the day. That's unacceptable. Now, the defense overall, my concern would be, and this was on the broadcast. It was interesting watching the game on broadcast via live, just how much more information you get from the broadcast.
Totally.
But I mean, Dak ate the zone up tonight. I don't know what his end of game numbers were, but at one point I think he was something like 16 of 16 with 3 touchdowns against the zone. So I do think that the defense, to a certain extent, made them work for it. It didn't feel easy. There were long drives, 14 play drives, 10 play drives. The offense put them in tough spots. And, I think about half the time they held them out of the end zone. Like the 2 last possessions after offense turned it over, you could argue it's still a game because they give up that 3rd and 30, but it's also still a game at the end because the defense holds them to field goals and not touchdowns after the offense hands it right back to them. So I think if you could only give 100% of the blame to the offense or the defense, I think it clearly belongs on the defense. But I also think if you can parse it, like the offense gave the ball up 4 times, put the defense in some tough spots. And part of me does think that if you're going to make Dallas go on 12, 13 play drives, you hope they make a mistake. But at the same time, as I started it off with, is this. Dak clearly seems to be able to beat whatever the Eagles coverage is. Now, does Gannon have a trick up his sleeve? Does Gannon have something for the playoffs where he'll switch things up? I'm Gannon's biggest defender. We've debated him since he's been hired almost, or certainly at least since halfway through last year. I'm not confident he has another trick up his sleeve for the playoffs. I'm not confident he won't just come out in the playoffs and do the exact same thing. Now, if the offense plays better and he plays the exact same scheme and they don't give up an historic 3rd and 30, we're probably feeling different about it because maybe they only give up, 27 points and the offense, because Jalen's there, doesn't put them in tough spots. But the scheme to stop Dak today was certainly not impressive. And Dak has lit them up. So I can't defend Gannon after this.
Yeah, agree with pretty much everything you said. I think the offense has to take some blame. They had 4 turnovers, including a few deep in territory where it's like, what do you do? It's can only do so much. And the defense did have a touchdown today. I think. Look,
defense, sorry, real quick.
Yeah,
the 3rd down defense was really bad early on. They were like 6 of 8, and then the 2 times they didn't get it, they got it once on 4th down. So they actually got them, I thought, in some manageable situations on 3rd down. It wasn't like they were constantly, converting 3rd and 3s. It felt like it was like 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 10s, obviously 3rd and 30, right? So the 1st and 2nd down defense actually wasn't that bad. It was just time after time after time, they did not make the play when they needed to. And let's be honest, they make 1 or 2 more plays, to your point, they do win this game. They get off the field on 3rd and 30, they probably win this game, right? They get off on 2 more 3rd downs, they probably win this game. It's just, at the end of the day, 40 points is 40 points, and there's no excusing that.
Yeah. And again, look, they lost Maddox early. He came out like a bat out of hell, was playing an amazing football game, and then
missed an early sack though, for what it's worth, which was a big play.
Yeah, and look, it looked like he had him, but look, you can only do so much in that situation. But look, the 3rd and 30 is a disaster, and Gannon, it has to fall at his feet. It's the kind of thing where look, this defense has been so good all season. I'm not gonna, I'm not saying fire Gannon, even though I'm not a Gannon fan, nor have I ever been a Gannon fan. But like, you have to look at the sum of the season. But if that play happens in a playoff game, if that was a playoff game and the playoff game plays out that way and that play happens, it's like fire Gannon. You know what I mean? So it is, one of those.
Does this game change how you feel about this defense going into the playoffs?
No, not in a big way. Again, look, it's about who's there. You get Maddox back. Is where's CJGJ? Even though Blankenship's been good too, that just adds depth. Jordan Davis they lost today. All that.
Did you see CJGJ after the 3rd?
He's so funny tweeting. He just
he tweeted something like should have been an interception. I'm like, I'm not sure if I disagree, but man.
Look, and I think
not great.
He's like clearly itching. So, and again, I know you underrate it, but I do think there is something to the 3 straight road games. I do think your legs get tired. It's a lot of travel. These guys have played a long season. Like,
And on a short
I
week.
think, and on a short week, I do think there will be something to getting rest before the playoffs. That extra week off. Who knows if they win next week, they get 2 weeks off for certain guys. All that, I think that'll matter, and I think that'll help. So, again, I really today sucked that they lost, but I also I'm not. I don't really take any massive things away from it moving forward, other than the injuries and being concerned about it.
Yeah, I mean, the injuries are, I would say, the biggest concern. I would say that before the game, I was at like 80% they were going to go to the Super Bowl. I think after today, I'm probably at more like 70%, just because seeing.
Oh yeah, so this game had literally zero
Yeah, yeah.
impact on my feelings for the rest of the season. If anything, again, it made me feel like Dallas isn't that good.
But,
You know?
but so Dak doing what he did today and this offense putting up 40 points doesn't
Yeah,
change
but
at all.
again, like, and look, maybe they did the zone thing because they know they could face Dallas in the playoffs.
Maybe,
It's
yeah, maybe.
everything where with Gardner, you don't really have to worry too much about, it's going to be a different looking offense because Gardner's there. So you could show whatever you want with Gardner. But on the defensive side, that's the same defense that they're going to face in the playoffs. Maybe you are rope doping a little bit while not
Maybe.
throwing the game away. So, it's the kind of thing where wouldn't you adjust? It seems weird they didn't adjust if the zone was killing him like that all game and they kept talking about it and stuff. So,
I
but
just think
look,
I think they're okay with playing this type of defense. And that, like,
and
that's our
maybe
constant
they
debate we're gonna
are.
have,
I
you know?
just am not like Dallas is fine. I just don't think Dallas is that scary. And I haven't really the whole season, And again, their defense stunk. Again, the only reason I was at all quote unquote concerned about Dallas earlier in the year or whatever when we talked about it was how good the defense looked and how
Yeah.
dynamic it was, and it didn't look good at all. It just, it just didn't against Gardner. I mean, I feel like Hurts would tear that defense up. Like, I just am not super scared. Again, I'll keep saying what the Niners, and again, I'm not scared of anybody. I'm not even that concerned of anybody, but I'm definitely more concerned of the Niners than the Cowboys by far after that.
Let me say one more thing about the 3rd and 30, then we can move to the offense if you want. 3rd and 30 to me, to give like a real world example of this. The 3rd and 30, when you have a chance to clinch the 1 seed, clinch the division in prime time against your division rival, is a type of mistake where, let's say you work in an office and you're a salesperson and you're the number one salesperson at the team, right? Your numbers crush every week. You're unbelievable at your job. And you make that type of mistake, the boss calls you in and go, look, man, we're not going to fire you, but that's a fireable offense. Like, to make that level of mistake, it's like running an ad that has a massive curse word in it or something. Like, to give up that play in that spot has such a big impact on this team.
But again, it doesn't though. Like, it does if this were really a must-win game.
Well,
Like
but it
you
does
said,
because now they have to
they have
play
a
next.
95%. They're not going to sit the guys for a month.
I think they would have. I think they would.
Totally disagree. I think that's crazy. I think that'd be insane to sit guys for a month, not play competitive football for a month before a playoff game. That's nuts. That's nuts.
I'm just saying,
nuts, dude. That's nuts.
Right. Well,
you are making way too big a deal about the importance of this game. Like, way too big a deal.
I don't know, man.
Disagree with
They
you
have to. They have to play their guys now next week, and that it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And to your point,
because they weren't going to sit for a month. That's crazy.
I think they were going to. Though.
I think that would have been. Well, if they did, then that would have been a huge mistake. And
right.
I'm happy that if they were going to sit their guys for a month, then I'm happy they lost today so that they couldn't do that, because that would have been so stupid.
Right. And we can say what we would have done, how we feel about that. And maybe you're right. Maybe if they sit their guys for a month, that's a massive mistake. I just know that to give up that play in that spot to me has a big impact on how things are handled moving forward. And because of that, that is a really, really terrible mistake in a huge spot. That's all I'm trying to say. I give Gannon a lot of credit. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me say that was an egregiously terrible, awful mistake in a big spot that is now impacting this franchise moving forward.
Okay. I agree with everything and impacting it moving forward to a small degree in my mind, because, again, I think they would have played guys anyway. But I get your point, and I definitely agree that is an unforgivable play in that situation, no matter what. No matter what, even if it's a preseason game, that's an unforgivable play in that spot, obviously magnified in any game of any meaning, especially against, the Cowboys and all that stuff. All right, offensively, look, there's not too much to say. We talked about Minshew. Devontae, AJ, both great. Devontae was particularly special. I thought Miles was good, but then the fumble
I thought Miles was only okay.
ruins the performance. I mean, the fumble kills it. You
Some
know,
of
I,
it is
I don't
bad.
I don't have too much else to say about the offense, outside of I thought they moved the ball really well against vaunted Dallas defense with their backup quarterback.
So I disagree. I don't think Miles was that great. I'm looking at his numbers. He averaged 3 yards a carry,
I
65
didn't say
yards.
it was great. I just thought he was good. I thought I
I was,
didn't notice him being
yeah,
bad other than the fumble.
right. So yeah, it's a little bit like how was the play otherwise, Miss Lincoln? I mean, that fumble was pretty big, but
Right, a disaster. I was
yeah,
talking.
yeah,
He had a bad game because of the fumble. There's no
yeah.
question.
My hope was that the running offense was going to be better than it was. It's clear how much Jalen helps this running offense. If they had, I'm trying to think of the best non-mobile quarterback in the league is, let's say Joe Burrow, right? They have Joe Burrow back there, quarterback. It's clear that this running attack would not be as good as it is with Jalen, because
Mhm.
I think they have a great offensive line. I think
No
Miles
doubt.
Sanders is a very good running back. I thought they would have been able to come in and run the ball. I mean, they set the franchise record for rushing yards in a game or whatever a month ago. So they can run the ball when Jalen's there. I just thought without Jalen, they would be better. And I thought if they ran the ball better today, they probably have a better chance to win the game. They kill more clock, all those things. From an offensive perspective, my question for you would be, now, how do you handle Jalen next week? Like, are you confident enough in how Gardner looked that if Jalen is not whatever we want to define 100%, I know no one's 100%, but however you want to define it, right? Like the Jeff McClain report was that he's probably going to be out 2 games. Does losing this game, are you itching to get Jalen back a little earlier because of it?
No, I'm only playing Jalen if he's 100%. I think they're going to win. I think they can beat the Saints and probably will be, especially at home, would beat the Saints without Gardner anyway, or with Gardner anyway. And again, like I think if they wanted to play their guys, especially because you have a week off, if you want to play your guys against a Giants team that has nothing to play for that least last week, which is going to happen, I think it's as close to 100% win as there is in the NFL, as close as there is. Like you will 100% win the football game if you play your guys against the Giants last week. And I'd be okay with that. Again, a spot to get them some action. I don't like the idea of them sitting that long. I really don't. I've seen it too many times where teams rest guys for multiple weeks before the playoffs and they just look rusty and they don't look right. So, and you could even argue with the Falcons game that 2017 that the Eagles didn't look right that first half and
Mm-hmm.
they still almost lost that game. So, I'm not a huge fan of resting guys that long before the playoffs. So I'm not concerned. I'm waiting till Hurts is 100%, and if it takes one more week and then he comes out and beats the Giants and puts a cap on the season, I'm fine with that too. I'm just not that concerned. Like I get it. I'm not, obviously I'd rather they just end it, but I'm just not. It's just not a huge worry for me. I think they're going to be the 1 seed. I'm worried about Hurts being healthy, and I don't want them to get too much rest before the playoffs. That's like my general overview.
Yeah, I mean, I would bet my life they're going to be the 1 seed. And I
Yeah.
don't say that lightly. Like, I would bet my life that they get the 1 seed in the NFC. Now, someone cut that audio and don't make me pay on
All
they don't. But let me take
right,
you
Elliot,
down.
it's time to die.
Yeah, that's the end of the Go Birds pod. Let me take you down my biggest fear path, and you tell me that it's not going to happen. But let me at least tell you
It's
what I
not
was
going to
thinking.
happen.
Okay,
Okay,
but so my only concern is they are going to get the 1 seed. I think they're going to beat the Saints. The only thing that's concerning is until you clinch it, there's just a little part of me let's say they sit Jalen out, because you're right, they don't want to put him out there. He's not 100%. First snap of the game, Gardner Minshew, God forbid, gets a hit and he's out. Now you have Ian Book, and then it all
Ian
comes
Book
down.
revenge game.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
Ian Book revenge game.
Yeah,
Come on, Elliot.
yeah. I just man, they just had it.
Look, I
They
get
had
it.
it
I
tonight. They
get
had it. It should be over.
I get your basic point of it's better to have just clinched and then you can decide how much you want to play, guys. You can decide how you handle it. I'd rather clinch than not. I'm not as obviously close to as concerned about it as you are because you just said you'd bet your life they'd be the
Yeah.
one
So
seed.
again, I'm
And
mostly
how can you be that worried about it? Like those two things don't really jive. It's like an oxymoron or something.
as people on the bet parks know, I make a lot of bad bets, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
so at the end of the day, who knows? I just I'm trying to think how to phrase it. They're going to be the 1 seed. It's just sitting there watching this. I'm like, man, this is such a blown chance. And you can only blow so many chances until it comes back to bite you. Like, I think they will beat the Giants if they need to in week 17. But we have, I hate to pull this line out, but we've seen a lot of really bad things in Philly sports happen,
Sure.
right? Not over till it's
sure.
over. Collapses, those type
I
of
get
things.
it.
So to be so close, like to enter that fourth quarter, having it, like you were right there, you had it, and to let it slip through your fingers. And, like Jalen's hurt. Like maybe he'll come back next week. Maybe he'll come back against the Giants if they need it. Jalen Hurts is injured. His shoulder is hurt. He would not have played if this was a playoff game today, right? So I have faith in Gardner because he played well, but this team is not the same with Gardner as they are with Jalen. They can't run the ball as well. Gardner's not as dynamic. He's not as good running the ball, obviously. He's not as good passing the ball. Jalen is a far better passer than Gardner is. So when the Chicago Bears game ended and we sat here and talked like, just rest everyone versus Dallas. And like, that was with the confidence that Jalen, if needed, could come in and play at 100%. With that safety net not gone, because Jalen, could go out there at 50%. Jalen could go out there against the Giants if needed. But just the worry of not knowing how Jalen will look when he comes back, for me, compounds the fear of ignoring the numbers, right? Like we're an analytical pod to some degree, right? Like we believe in analytics, all those things. So I know that I can sit there and go, they have a 97% chance of getting the 1 seed, which is why I bet my life on it. But I also know that their starting MVP quarterback is not 100% and that weird things happen. And so it just sucks that they blew it,
Yeah, I get it, buddy. I don't feel you. I get it though. I really do. I understand what you're saying and it's logical from your perspective. Again, I just don't understand the concept of they're going to get the 1 seed, but I'm freaking out because nothing else matters
But
about
they
the
could
game.
also get the 1 seed
Who gives a crap?
a number of different ways,
Who
right? Like
gives a crap? As long as they get the 1 seed, who cares what happened in today's game other than injuries? Like
well,
literally, it's meaningless other
well,
than getting the 1 seed, right? Like if they end up getting the 1 seed, did this game matter other than injuries?
yes.
How?
Yes. Because
How?
I think, well, let me tell you how. Because I think if you're playing to win, the defense today was playing to win the game and they gave up 40 points, right? So going into the playoffs, it matters how they're playing. Like the last time we saw this defense play, and I know it was against the Bears, but overall, you could argue this is probably the worst team to game the defense. Don't you think this is probably the worst game they played?
Yeah, they're good, but I don't know. Like I feel like that's elite to say like, oh,
I'm just saying
you don't want them going into the playoffs off of a bad outing or something. Again, I think, and I also told you again, you don't put any stock in the 3 straight road games. I do.
No,
I do
you
think
put a lot of stock.
I think it matters. All right, let's move on because I have a couple other things, and it's Christmas Eve, and
100%. Yes,
let's
100%.
get the hell out of here because they lost, and this is too long a pot already for a losing game thing.
Especially for a loss, it doesn't matter.
That's what I'm saying. I didn't even care about this game. I expected you to say hello and go. All right, quick. Steichen, by the way, just one more shout out. I thought Sirianni and Steichen, from a play calling perspective, really had an amazing day. I thought they really called a great game, and some of the 4th down calls. I mean, that touchdown to Smith for him to be that. I thought they should kick the field goal there. Hand up.
Yeah, I thought that was an amazing play. I also thought Shane Steichen got so much camera time, and his agent.
Good, finally. Again, can you think of a more recent we were wrong or we're surprised by guy? Like last year, there's not a single Eagles fan after last season was like, yeah, Shane Steichen. Not one.
It was my biggest concern coming into the year. Yeah, he's been unreal.
Guy. He's been great.
I thought that Devontae played too. It reminded me of the Philly special in the way that when they ran the Philly special, obviously the call was huge, everything, all that, but the way they executed it was ridiculous. It just so crisp. This play today was so crisp, the way they called that.
Yeah, it was a really great play. Non-Eagles, 2 quick things. Carson.
I saw that. Yeah.
Hilarious.
Wouldn't it be so strange if
they're in a playoff race and they're like, oh, let's get a Carson. And is it I don't know. It's so
weird. Dumb. Wouldn't it be hysterical if somehow Washington made the playoffs, upset the Vikings in week 1 or the first playoff, and Carson came to the
Elliot.
It won't happen. But we've been waiting for the Carson
dream, buddy. That's the dream. It feels like Washington's not going to make the playoffs at this point, even though they're a playoff team right now. But that's the dream.
Avante's in a walking boot, by the way.
Oh, God.
Also, Dak Prescott on facing the Eagles in the playoffs, very confident.
Cool. I can't wait for that.
Nothing on land yet.
Here's what I'll say, and I know you think it's a curse. I don't, because he said it on TV, but I'll quote Shady McCoy. Dak is ass. And I believe that. All right. Last thing. By the way, I sent this to you. The most insane stat that people might not know right now going around is with Seattle's loss today, teams that have faced the 49ers have gone 0-13 the week
That is
after they
wild.
face it. It's like one of the craziest stats I've ever seen. And I don't know if it means anything or what, but it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
All right. And last thing I got is everyone should go to Elliot's Twitter feed and check out his Bill Belichick tweet because he came in hot.
I
Came in
mean, look,
hot.
if Bill Belichick did not have Tom Brady, he would just be a defensive coordinator. He would have been fired eventually by the Patriots. He would be hanging in the league as a defensive
All right. We've reached the end of the podcast. Boy, do you have anything else? I'm done.
No, I mean, we'll have pods throughout the week, obviously. The Saints game matters
Yeah,
now, so there'll be a ton
here
of
and
time.
there. It'll be a weird week because I'm off all week, but we'll figure it out. We will definitely have pods at some point.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes. I mean, I guess just Merry Christmas. If you're listening to this now,
look at that.
It's literally Christmas, presumably, if you're taking time on your Christmas day to listen to this. I will say, if you're not listening to this until Monday or Tuesday, I do not blame you for taking a day after that frustrating loss that nobody wants to spend their Christmas listening.
Can't believe we're still talking about it. I'm with you.
I know. But we love the Go Birds listeners, so we had to do it for them.
Yeah, I'm with you. And we'll be back at some point this week. And to Elliot's point, we love all of you. And happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all this stuff, whatever it is. Yeah, we wouldn't be talking right now if it weren't for you guys. So
better days are ahead for the Eagles. Better days are ahead.
Yeah, I'm like, it didn't even matter. Who cares?
I'm not saying it didn't. I'm not saying
here's my personal title, and it won't be the title for the pod because we always try and encapsulate what we're both thinking and the whole thing. But if it were my title, it'd be, Go Birds Pod, Eagles-Cowboys post-game pod. Who cares?
Mine might be Eagles-Cowboys post-game pod. Elliot risks his life for this team. How about that? Elliot risks his life.
I said neither one of these was going to be the title. I was wrong.
Might have to be the title.
Yeah, I think Elliot risked it. Yeah, that's it. All right. You got any final thoughts, buddy? We just did it. Christmas.
Yeah, they're going to go to the Super Bowl. It just
Elliot. They're going to go to the Super Bowl. I'm just bummed. All right.
It just sucks to know that this is what happened tonight.
Hey, buddy, I hope you enjoyed.
The pod should be different.
I know it should have been. I know how much you love Christmas. I hope it's wonderful.
I do love Christmas.
I hope it's magical.
I love Christmas. I love you. I love the listeners. So I'm still overall very happy.
Good.
And I have some road trip takes for the next pod.
Oh, can't wait. I'll have some movie takes for the next pod. We got all kinds of good stuff.
Very nice.
All right. Enjoy Christmas. I know you love it, and everyone else. And we'll be back later this week. He's Elliot James.